And welcome back to the channel, everybody. Here, Lucas from Mars, back again with MLB Show 23 Custom League. And today, we have a very special episode here. This will be the draft episode. And so we won't have any gameplay in this one here, but we will talk about the draft. We'll go through the first couple of rounds. I won't cover every single pick, but we'll just go through the first couple of rounds in the MLB draft here. And then we will look at all of the prospects that were selected, and we'll just talk about, some of the best prospects that we see and all that. So we will go to the draft now, and there is a look at the draft position, or the draft board, basically. You have the Montreal Expos with the first pick, Las Vegas with the second pick, OKC, the Bison with the third pick, the Arrows with the fourth pick. That's a pretty big one for them, as they're one of the better teams in the league. The fifth pick goes to the Rhinos, sixth for Nashville. And there's a complete look at that draft board here. Unfortunately, the Spiders, who are one of the worst teams in the league, they're not that great, are picking dead last. So this draft is, it's going to go by the order of, real-life MLB. So I did not have any control over this draft order, and it's not based on the records of these teams now. But we go to the very first pick here in this draft, and we have the Montreal Expos here selecting. And, of course, if you guys don't know how this draft works in this game, the guys with the blue markers next to them are guaranteed to have a potential. So they're guaranteed to have 90-plus potential. And so those are the blue chip guys, and those are the guys that a lot of these teams will be kind of going after here in especially the first round of this draft. So Willie Rosado is a very interesting player here, 80 potential and 45 overall at first base. And so looking at it, there are a couple of starting pitchers there, but Robbie Matthews is a promising first base prospect. And I also will mention this later on when we actually look at all these prospects, but some of these final ratings are, not going to be, or not, I'm going to change the ratings of some of these players before, year two, or when year two gets started, because one thing that I cannot stand about the draft in this game is both Hunter Santos was really good there. One thing that I can't really stand about this game with the drafting is, you draft a guy that has a potential that's like a 93 or 94, 95 potential player, but he's like a 45 overall, like a 50 overall, and, sometimes he's a little bit on the older side, so honestly, we'll take him years upon years if ever he will, if he's ever going to make the major league team. And so with that, I will try and make it a little balanced so that these players that we draft here will actually be able to go to the teams and actually be able to make an impact on some of these teams. I go back to Homer Santos again, and you look at third base there was no blue chip guys at third base at all. Homer Santos, second baseman here, he cannot play anywhere else. 75, so he looks like an elite contact hitter with pretty decent power, great vision here as well. So that's a really interesting guy there at second base. But I also will have one superstar, or one, maybe two superstars in this draft. The guys that have 98 or 99 potential. I'm going to make them pretty close to around maybe 70 overall. I mean, at least like a 65, 66 overall right off the bat. And doesn't really happen in this game. There are generational players that you can get in the newest game, in MLB Show 23. They have those generational prospects. In that game, they do not have generational type players in this game. So to kind of do that, I want to make at least a couple of these picks here just be absolute superstars and be guys that are going to be in the league in just a couple of seasons. So, I kind of see that with, like Jack Leiter in this franchise sim. He's going to be called up at some point this year because, he's already 21, but he's already a 70-plus overall. And the Bees are definitely going to want that pitching help. So, that's a guy that's hasn't even played a full season in the minors and is not going to be able to play a full season in the minors. But we're going to call him up at the September call-up period, likely, just because, man, he's already capable of being an MLB-ready player. And so here with the first pick in this draft for the Montreal Expos, they keep going back to Homer Santos here, and their second base as a position is not super strong for them. They have Nicky Lopez there, at second base, but, he's 27 and a beat potential and only 83 overall. So as we go further along here, though, they also, there's a lot of starting pitchers here that look really good and are blue chip guys as well. So Homer Santos is a really good and interesting pick, but man, Richie Wolf, I mean, this guy, hard to pass up on him. Elite K per 9, really good, or good K per 9, elite hit per 9, and elite home run per 9, 80, but 80 potential there with that home run per 9, good velocity. I mean, just an absolutely stacked pitcher, and a 2023 MLB ETA. So Richie Wolf out of California, 21-year-old starting pitcher, is going to be that first overall pick here in this draft. So Richie Wolf, first overall pick, remember that name, he goes to the Montreal Expos. And now on the draft board is the Las Vegas the Las Vegas Gamblers, as they have, they're an interesting team. I think that they're about a 500 team pretty much right now. I don't see that this is going to be a playoff team here this season. So with that being said, they're going to have to draft here pretty well and pretty carefully. And so again, looking at Homer Santos, I mean, really, really good. So that's definitely an option there for Las Vegas if they want to go that route. Tommy Edman right now is listed as our starting second baseman. I'm not sure if he's actually starting there at second base. I think he is for Las Vegas, so that's an option for them. But then they can't kind of go back to some of these starting pitchers, and there's Benito Valenzuela, a guy from Venezuela, born there, and he's a 2024 ETA. He looks really, really good at 80 potential here. Another blue chip guy. Derek Lamar looks pretty solid. There's Ricky Washington, Sean Robles, and Leo Munoz, but Benito Valenzuela here looks really, really good. Elite K per 9 and really solid across the board, and so that is who Las Vegas will select. So Las Vegas is going to go with Benito Valenzuela here in that second overall pick. Another 21-year-old starting pitcher. So a couple of pitchers here to start this draft off. And so then we go to the OKC Bison here. And the Bison, they're a decent team right now. They're around 500, really competing in the division right now. And then, they're in the American League West, I believe. And so they got a good division there with the Reapers and the Diablos in it. So let's see what they can do here with their first draft pick here. They also like Willie Rosado kind of here at first base for them. Although the ETAs on those two guys a little bit sketchy, and that's probably turns them off a little bit from drafting those guys here. Looking closer at some of these blue chip pitchers, as you get to see some of those stats here. Kenny Shorter, also 2026 ETA, but Derek Lamar, I mean, he's got good K per 9, really good walk per 9, or I'm sorry, a good home run per 9, and really good walk per 9 as well, good velocity there at, 80 scouted and an 80 kind of potential. I will say, seeing kind of how the draft works in MLB Show 23, I actually really like how the draft works in that game. I like that you really don't know kind of what these players look like, as Derek Lamar is another starting pitcher, and Derek Lamar will go off the board here to the Bison. So OKC gets a pitcher, so 3 pitchers in a row to begin this draft, as OKC gets Derek Lamar, as they will strengthen that pitching staff. I will say, though, I really do like the draft in the new game. I think that it's really cool how, you scout somebody and, they have the MLB ETA or the MLB draft rank, and then you have, your own draft rank for your own team, kind of comparing those two kind of side by side. And, you don't actually know the ratings of these players until you sign them, which is very interesting. And then you have to actually give them money. Like, it actually takes a little bit to, sign those top prospects, that if you really want to get them, you have to give them more than just, because it's super simple. In this game, you draft them, you give them, the bare bones contract, and they're signed to your team immediately. But you actually have to kind of plan it out. So I think that they did a good job at overhauling the draft in the new game, because the draft in this game is just, it's not great. I mean, I'm going to be honest here. It's kind of boring. There's not a whole lot of, craziness going on with this draft. And I think the scouting is just boring. I don't ever do scouting. Really, even in the franchise, even in the Marlins franchise, I didn't do scouting for that franchise just because, man, scouting in this game, I don't find it very interesting. So they're rested on Homer Santos right now. Let's see what the Arrows will go with here with the 4th pick overall in this draft, in the first round. But this team does have Yobi Vivas there at second base, and, he's a young guy, only like 21 years old. So they also go back to the pitchers here, and let's see what they look at here. And Kenny Schroeder is a 19-year-old pitcher here from Illinois, 26 plus ETA. He looks very interesting. Leo Munoz, also 18 from California. But we go back to Kenny Schroeder here, and, really good. He's got some good ratings there, and I like where Kenny Schroeder's at, and so we will pick him. He's a little bit more probably of a long-term kind of guy for the Arrows, but, the Arrows are really good right now, so I think that they can take kind of a risk on a lower, on a guy that's going to take a little bit more time, just because that they are a good team at the moment. And now we get to the Richmond Rhinos here, and this is a good spot for Richmond here. They're the worst team in the league right now in just wins and losses. I mean, they have the most losses in the league right now, so this is a good spot. I'm glad that they're in the top 5 in this draft here, and I think I would maybe see them go for a positional player here, and so we'll see what they do. And again, I mean, keep going back to Homer Sanchez, but Bo Suarez here as well at second base is also very good, and these two guys pretty similar. I mean, I think it's going to take longer for the other guy to be ready. Homer Santos is going to take him a little bit longer to be ready for the show, but Bo Suarez is like almost ready to be a starter immediately, it looks like here, according to these ratings, and he looks like a very solid all-around player. I mean, good contact, some really good and decent power as well. So, I mean, either one of these guys I think is a really good option here for this Richmond team. And, I mean, man, I like Bo Suarez a lot here. So, we'll see which one they go with. I think it's going to be between one of these two players here for the Rhinos. And, again, we want to get this right, and we'll definitely compare how these two guys are. But they're going to go with Bo Suarez. And I think that's a good pick there because I liked Bo Suarez a little bit more. His ratings were just a little bit more solid to me. So, I think that was a good selection there. And now we get to the Nashville Stars. And Nashville, I mean, they're one of the top teams in this league here in year one. So, they don't really need another blue chip guy, but they will get a option here of picking a blue chip guy in this draft. I mean, they're having a great season, so we'll kind of see what they need. And I think they might be interested in one of these starting pitchers here. Although, we'll see what they want. If they want to try maybe go after first or second baseman. Gavin Lux is there at second base, so they might not really want to pursue that. Shortstop, they got a prospect there at short. Dave Franco is another guy. He's our 2026 ETA player there in the outfield. But, yeah, I think we're going to want them to go in the direction of starting pitching here. I think position-wise, they're pretty solid on all fronts. And so we'll see. These are all pretty much more long-term options for the Nashville Stars here, it seems like. But we'll see. I mean, there's 5 blue chip guys left here, and I think they're all 2026 plus ETA. So Erwin Ramirez looks pretty solid. I think that he's probably one of the best out of those pitchers that we have here. But we'll see what Nashville goes with in this pick. And so, again, I think they really like Erwin Ramirez here. And that looks like who they're going to go with right now. So let's see. Ramirez at 22. The age is kind of a little off there. But actually, I kind of did a little switcheroo on there. Leo Munoz is going to be picked here in this spot by Nashville. I think the age is really what did that one for me drafting here. I didn't like, that Aaron Ramirez is already 22 and he has that 2026 plus ETA. So figured we go with somebody a little younger. But man, first base, that's appealing. They only have Brandon Belt right now at first base in the entire roster. So that's definitely an interesting option there. Second base, of course, is an interesting option. Adam Frazier is all right. But, he's 30 years old and, not great. They have Tristan Casas here at third base as a prospect. I mean, their shortstops aren't really that great either, so that's an option for them as well. But let's kind of see what they're going to go with. They're going to go with Homer Santos here, and I think that makes sense. That's a good pick. We've been talking about Homer Santos a lot in this draft, and he goes number 7 overall. All right, this is a good spot for the Phoenix Scorpions. They're one of the worst teams here in this league. They're just not they're not a great team right now. So let's see what they do here with this selection. This is a good spot for them at number 8 in the draft order. Willie Rosado is still there, and a decent first baseman in Nathaniel Lowe that they have right now, but not amazing. They definitely could improve there as well. But the infielders here, there's not a lot of blue chip infielders anymore left on the board. There really isn't any at this point in the draft, besides Salvatore Nieve and the 2 8 potential, and the 2 guys that are, and the 2 guys that are first base. Can't speak for a minute there. And then the outfielder that they have. There's only 1 blue chip outfielder in the whole draft, which is a little unfortunate, I think. But it's Dave Franco, and again, we kind of looked at him already. Doesn't look like he's going to be insanely good at anything really, besides his fielding. But, he's got good speed, elite stealing, and so those areas look pretty good. But otherwise, yeah, he doesn't look like he's going to be absolutely insane in any area. So we'll see. That's an interesting option there. But I think for this team here, I mean, they don't have a lot of guys there in center field at all. Enrique Hernandez is their starter, and they will go with Dave Franco here. So that outfielder, that's the only blue chip out there in this draft, and he is taken here with the number 8 overall pick. So now we go to the Los Angeles Dragons, a 500 team basically this season right now. And so let's see what they will do here in this first round. I think they got some options there pitching-wise. But again, now, I mean, only there's 2 first base options, and there is the shortstop option in Salvatore Nieve now for infielders that have, that blue chip on them. So let's see what happens here. I mean, shortstop is Corey Seager there, so might not really want to go with the shortstop. But first base is interesting. Garrett Cooper is their starting first baseman right now, but they don't have really any first base prospects. And Willie Rosado and Robbie Matthews are both good and interesting prospects here. I like Robbie Matthews probably a little bit more, honestly. Really got good potential for the contact there. And that is who we're going to go with here in this selection. It looks like Robbie Matthews is going to go to the Los Angeles Dragons here in the first round of pick number 9. So now we go to the number 10 pick, and we go with the Rattlers here. And the Rattlers fighting for first place in the NL West right now. They're overall just a pretty average 500 team, but running out of blue chip guys so for sure here. So do they go pitching, or do they go with that other first baseman or the shortstop that, we see? So those are the only kind of guys. There are a couple of closing pitchers, but closing, I don't want to pick a closing pitcher, blue chip guy really until the second round. So we'll leave them for later. But I think the starting pitching is probably going to be where this team is going to gravitate to, unless they really are going to need one of those, the shortstop or the first baseman here as kind of a blue chip guy. I'll look at catcher for a minute here, but we will see what they do with this pick at number 10 overall. And so, yes, I think they keep going back to the starting pitchers, and it makes sense why. I mean, Aaron Ramirez, I think he looks interesting here. 22 years old, the age, again, a little bit concerning with him, but that looks like what they're going to go with here. They are going to draft Erwin Ramirez in this first round with that pick there. So that's a good selection by the Rattlers, and now we go to the Chinooks, and the Chinooks, just not great. I mean, they're just not a great team this season, so this is going to be an important selection for them here. First base is a Ty France is at first base for them right now, so he's pretty good there. Bo Bichette at shortstop, so they really don't need a shortstop, and so I think they're going to gravitate towards pitching here as well with this selection. And we got 3 blue chip pitchers left, and Sean Robles, John Maryberry, and Nick Washington. No, that guy just carries me off a little bit. The 80 overall and the 80 potential never match up like that. And I mean, that guy was not scouted at all. But yeah, I think one of these starting pitchers is going to be what they're going to go for here. It seems like, I mean, I think you would want to choose a blue chip guy before you kind of go after the other guys that aren't blue chip guys, but we will just have to see. And so they're kind of looking at John Mayberry here, and that is who they're going to go with in this selection. So number 11 in that pick is John Mayberry to the Chinooks here. So now we're really narrowing down our blue chip guys for the Mexico City Diablos to go after. And we'll kind of see. I mean, again, that's closing pitchers, so not going to select a closing pitcher right now at the moment. But, I mean, do you go with a guy that, you know, you've fully scouted that you know is going to be at least a 90 potential player? Or do you maybe take a chance? Let's see what they need at first. Do they need a first baseman? Kind of. I mean, Josh Bell, I think he's pretty suitable there in that position. I don't know if they really need him, but Levi Green is an option here. 80 potential guy. Pretty good scouting accuracy on him in the green. And, you know, 2026 ETA, though, so maybe not. But let's see if they try and, you know, go again for maybe, let's see, the shortstops. I mean, they got Tim Anderson there. I just don't like Salvatore Nieves' ratings very much at all, but we'll see what they do here in this selection. As they go back to Nieve, and, you know, I don't really like his ratings very much, but he is a blue chip guy, and they don't have really any shortstop prospects, so that's who they're going to go with here. The Diablos select Salvatore Nieve with that pick, and so now we're middle of the first rounds here, and now we have the Charlotte Cougars, who could definitely need a pretty good pick here. They're pretty average this season, and you look at their first baseman, and man, there's not a lot there. Albert Pujols is, of course, on this roster, but he's not going to be here next year. I mean, he's going to retire after the season, at least if he doesn't in the actual game. I will not sign him. I will not have anybody sign him after this season. So, you know, they're definitely not going to have Albert Pujols there at first base after this season is over. So that's definitely an option there. But also third base, maybe looking at somebody there as well. But man, I think you go back to that first baseman here. Anthony Kubek is maybe an interesting player there with some yellow scouting accuracy, but man, you really want to select somebody with green scouting accuracy right now at the moment, I think, with this selection. And Torres also maybe a little interesting in left field for him, but we'll see what they. And yeah, I think Willie Rosado is the pretty easy, safe choice here for this team at first base. And that is what they're going to go with here. So Willie Rosado goes to the Charlotte Cougars. And now we are really close to being out of blue chip guys. Now we only have a couple of starting pitchers left out of the blue chippers here besides the relief pitchers. And again, not going to be selecting a relief pitcher in this first round by anybody here. So the San Diego Sharks, I think it's pretty much a debate on which of these two pitchers and blue chip guys do you want here for you in this selection. But, you know, maybe looking ahead, I mean, Tobias Wayne, they have a lot better accuracy on him, and he doesn't look too bad. That's a guy that could have some sneaky potential, but I think it's going to have to be one of those pitchers. We'll just. And so, yeah, they're going to go with Nicky Washington here. Looks like out of New York, a 20-year-old starting pitcher there. And he is going to be selected. So that leaves only one blue chip guy that's not a relief pitcher left for the Seattle Raptors. And this is, you know, a team that is one of the better teams in the league. Probably going to be playoff bound. And so this will be an interesting selection for them. One of the better teams in the league. Really like what the Raptors do. So the Raptors, I mean, do you just go with the blue chip guy that is there at starting pitcher, or do you even look anywhere else to try and find somebody else maybe, or do you just go with the blue chip guy? I think the Raptors are going to maybe want to look around and try and find somebody maybe, but I think that that blue chipper guy probably going to be, you know, not to say bad, and it might be where they go here with this pick, but we will see. But we're actually going to go into right field, and looking at Pedro Bautista, I mean, that guy has some ridiculous ratings, it looks like. And he's an 80 potential guy. I mean, that's a good option there, maybe at center field. This is going to be a risk that, you know, they're going to have to take here, not getting the blue chip guy. That's going to be for sure a potential, but man, Pedro Bautista, love his ratings, an elite contact hitter, and that is actually what they're going to go with here. So no, they're not going to go with that blue chip pitcher. They're going to go with Pedro Bautista. And so that's an interesting selection. We'll just have to see how that works out for the Raptors there with that pick. As it is now the Cardinals here, and now they will pick in this spot. And so, well, we'll see what they do here. And the number, I think this is the 16th pick of this draft. And, I mean, Sean Robles is certainly there. And, you know, you look at this team's pitching depth. They have Hunter Green there in their farm system. And that's a guy that I'm going to, hopefully, we'll see him in the major leagues this season. They have some decent pitching there, but, you know, I think that we're looking at this the rest of the first round. But I think that is definitely an option there for them at that pitching spot. But it's just the Raptors did. They actually go and look in the outfield here. I don't know if the Raptors got an outfielder. I think they did. But they look to a guy that is not that blue chip guy here in James Koo, a right fielder from Taiwan. 60 overall, really good, 80 potential here, 2026 ETA, but man, he's got some good potential ratings here. 60 above average in the contact numbers, a pretty decent power bat as well, and really good in the field. So that's who they're going to go with here with this pick. So a first-round selection of James Koo to the Cardinals. And now the Kansas City Monarchs will pick here. And we'll see what they do with this selection here. The Monarchs are a pretty decent team. I mean, they started out the season really, really rough, if you can remember. But they actually have picked it up recently in the franchise. They are, you know, about a 500 team right now. And I think this is a team that's going to be pushing for a playoff spot this year. But, of course, we don't really matter about, you know, this year with this draft. But they actually go with Derek Miller here. Not sure if you caught his ratings, but he looks like a really good starting pitcher here, and, you know, he has good accuracy, and I think the reason I just do not like Sean Robles in this spot, I mean, he's got some decent ratings here, but not anything that I think is crazy, and, you know, the ETA scares me, but with the Vipers here in this selection, that is what they're going to go with. So Sean Robles is that final blue chip guy that is taken for the Vipers, and that might up being a steal of a selection right there, because three teams, I should say, skipped up on him, and so that might be a really, really good pick right there, and it might be a one that some teams regret if, you know, when we look back at these ratings. Anthony Kubek is still there at shortstop. And so, you know, there's really not a lot of guys that have 80 potential here that is in the green for scouting for the Crusaders, except for this center fielder here. But that is an option. We will see what they go with here, though. But I think they really do like Anthony Kubek here, a shortstop out of Pennsylvania. And good, decent ratings, but an 80 potential. And so that is who the Crusaders are going to go after, and they're, you know, a playoff team, and they're going to probably be a wildcard team this season, and they have a good selection there, I think, with Anthony Kubek. And so now we go to the New York City Jazz, and Jazz will look at some pitchers here. Joe Vogelsong, an 80 potential guy with yellow accuracy, 19 years old from Pennsylvania. That's a pretty interesting last name. Samuel Espinoza is a guy with only 2025 LBETA. Got some good pitching ratings right there. I really like him, so that's an option. Robbie Roy as well, 19 years old, and he's got 80 potential here with a 60 overall and a 2025 ETA. Man, he looks really good. Got good velocity, good break. I mean, above average, well above average, and his K per nine, his walk per nine, and, you know, his control. So I really like Robbie Roy. That's probably going to be a good selection. But we go back to Joe Vogelsong, and I think it's between these three guys here, in Espinoza, Vogelsong, and Roy. But, man, I keep coming back to Robbie Roy, and I just think that that's a guy that, I mean, this team cannot pass up on here if they want to get that decent quality starter. So we will see if that's the selection for them here. And it looks like it will be. So, yeah, they're going to go with Robbie Roy. in that selection, or is Robbie Ray? It's actually Robbie Ray. I don't know why I said Roy. I don't know why I was saying that the whole time, but that's going to be an interesting pick right there. I think that could be a potential steal. Late in the first round now at this point here at the Minneapolis Millers. I'm not actually sure what selection we are in this draft anymore in the first round, but we're getting towards the bottom. Felix Valdez is an interesting starting pitcher, maybe with 80 potential. But now at this point, no blue chip guys besides these relievers. So this is really going to have to be based on how much scouting accuracy do these teams have with these players, and where do they have the positional needs for some of these guys. So that's kind of what it's coming down to now. And I mean, right now for the Millers, they're just looking at their pitchers and seeing if they were really going to need to draft a pitcher in this spot, and they don't really have a lot of guys. They have Frank Mozzicato. I don't know how to pronounce that last name, but they don't have a lot of starting pitching in depth or prospects really to speak of in the pitching department. So this would be a good spot, I think, for a starting pitcher. Pedro Valles-Mil is, only has 70 potential, but I think it's between these two guys here. Felix Valdez really, really elite walk per nine, it looks like, and pretty good velocity, but great hit per nine as well. The home run per nine is kind of the stat that I look at the least with these players. I think K per nine is probably, I'll look at it and it's good to have a guy with good K per nine, but you also look at Felix Valdez, and man, that's the guy that this team is going to go with here. So Felix Valdez, the first round draft pick for the Minneapolis Millers. And now we go to the Phoenix Firebirds, and Phoenix, around a 500 team right now this season. We just covered them, or we will cover them in a game next episode in this franchise, actually. And, of course, they have Shohei Ohtani. But, we'll see what they do with this selection. Dominic Santana is maybe an interesting option. They actually still have scouting or green scouting on him. So, it's going to be a pretty accurate scouting report, it would seem, for that guy with thing being in the green. We'll see what they go with. And okay, maybe you consider a starting pitcher here, but, green scouting for an 80 potential guy here late in this first round, that's a spot that they really cannot pass up, I don't think. And so the Phoenix Firebirds are going to go with Dominic Santana, second base, for their selection here in this first round. And we are at pick 23 now, okay? So we got 7 more selections here to go in this first round. And now we go to the Winnipeg Wizards, who, they've had an interesting season. They've had a season that a lot of their guys in this team has actually gotten hurt this season. They've had quite a few injuries. So, they're a decent team right now, but, 500 record team. But they got a lot of guys with some green scouting accuracy here, actually. I think they did a really good job with their scouts, it seems like, because they still have a lot of guys that they scouted pretty decently. And, man, some of these catchers look very interesting, but man, you cannot go with a guy that you don't have scouting-wise. But, man, that catcher right there looked really good. But we have Dallas Vargas as well, first baseman here. Yoli Gurriel is right now their starting first baseman. He is 37 years old, and he is, winding down his career. Certainly, I don't know what his contract situation looks like, but I like Dallas Vargas for this selection. They don't have any other first base prospects, and so I think that's a good option for them to go with here. They have a guy with green in left field, it looks like here, but, man, that first baseman just can't too good to pass up, and so they will go with Dallas Vargas for the 23rd pick of the first round. And now we get to the New York Honey Badgers, who a good team that I think is going to be pushing for a postseason spot this year. So we'll see what they have here. They have a couple of guys, a good second baseman here, it looks like, in John Ferreira, and Ed Parks, a pitcher there that they have 80 potential with, yellow scattering accuracy. Honestly, I think out of those two, I like Ed Parks a little bit more. But, let's see, look at these catchers. They actually do have a decently scouted catcher in Guzman there, and Cesar Guzman, and with an 80 potential. And, Eric Haas, they don't have great catchers right now, but We'll see. Jonah Ferreira. They have Jeff McNeil and Jalen Miller there. Tyler Black is also a peak potential guy there at second base. So, yeah, they might not really. I don't know if they need John Ferreira that badly at second base here. He can play shortstop as well. So, he has that kind of that position of flexibility if they want to go that route. But as I said, I think I like Ed Parks a lot here. 70 hit per 9 potentially, and really good control. And so I like him as that starting pitching prospect for New York. So that is who they're going to go with here. Ed Parks is the 24th pick in this first round. So now we go to Vancouver and the Vandals. Not a great team record-wise this year. They have Eddie Corona at an 18-year-old from Missouri who is there at 80 potential scouting-wise. And Freddie Malonka, a catcher actually here, that has some potential maybe there as well. And so we go to the catchers, but they have Gabriel Moreno here catching for them. And, he is doing really well this season actually right now. And he is certainly going to be a mainstay on this team. He's batting .288 right now with a .315 on-base percentage. So he's doing well. He's increasing. And I don't think they don't really need that catcher there in that spot. So that kind of cancels him out. So let's see what else they want to go with here then. But another guy that they have some pretty decent scouting on actually is Justin McCoy, and a guy from Illinois. And man, he's got some decent ratings there, it looks like actually. So I like him. Justin McCoy will be drafted at 25 overall. Okay, so now we get the Diablos there. Couldn't speak for a minute as they will look to, or no, this is not the Diablos, this is the Reapers. What am I saying? The Reapers here will try and get this selection. They're a pretty good team, so, we'll see what they do with this first round pick here, as, their scouting accuracy isn't awful, but it isn't great. I mean, Johnny Houston, he's a guy potentially there at third base. A guy that looks like a 70 guy, overall guy now, and could be, 80 potential as well. So, Richie McDonald there as well at first base. Now, second baseman, they have Juan Ferreira. Again, we've seen him already with another team on his board. And Johnny Houston, though, I like where he's at. They do have Rafael Devers, though, at third base right now, who's kind of popping off. 16 homers and 39 RBIs. Behind him, they don't have, crazy. Anything super crazy, but we'll see. They got Freddie Freeman there at first base, who's signed for a really long time. So maybe not a first baseman, but we'll see what they do. But I think they would really like to get somebody at second base. They keep looking at second baseman. Liv McDermott is also an interesting option here. And actually, that is what they will go with. It looks like, yes, they will. They are going to go with Luther McDermott as the pick in that spot. Okay, so an interesting selection there. Now we go to the St. Louis Sluggers. And the Sluggers, a potential playoff team. Maybe they're about 500 right now on this season. And so let's see what they got. They got some good guys with green scouting accuracy, but are any of them 80 potential here? No, not really. I mean, okay, Luis Rios and Blaine McDonald are, but Blaine McDonald's only at 45 right now. He in 22. I mean, both of these guys actually are only 45 overall right now, and they're decently old. So I don't know. That's kind of scares me off of them, but we'll just see. And they got Adam Eaton or Matt Olson there at first base, but let's see what they do with this pick. And so they kind of look at second baseman a little bit. They have Brett Beatty as well as a prospect. Actually, this is third baseman. Richie Schultz here is there, and that's actually who they're going to go with. I don't know. That was a kind of a quick screenshot, so you guys can pause that if you wanted to look at what Richie Schultz kind of looked like there before that selection happened. But Richie Schultz is going to be the pick for St. Louis. And now we go to Boston here, and the Barons, one of the better teams rating-wise this year. I mean, they have had a really good start to their season. And man, Jason Doyle, any potential guy with green scouting accuracy, I mean, that is an easy selection all day for Boston. And so now it's the final round of this, or the final pick of this first round here for the Salt Lake City Bees, who, just around a 500 team. But what do they do in this spot? Man, Johnny Rodriguez, he's got green scouting accuracy. and he's only 19 years old. He kind of looks insane, actually, if, you know, those stats are really any indication. He looks like he could be a crazy good player here. 2023 MLB ETA, so that's like next year. But, I mean, his hitting ratings look like they might be absolutely insane. So, I mean, why not take that guy there in that second to last pick in this round, actually. Okay, so this is the final round, or the final pick of the first round for the San Francisco Spiders here with their selection. And Esteban Adano is 80 potential, and a 2024 guy at starting pitcher. I mean, at this point, if you got a guy that's, 80 potential, you have green scouting accuracy, I just take him all day, every day. So now we move into the contemporary selection here. Not the second round totally yet, but now the second pick of this draft here for the Montreal Expos. So again, they went with that pitcher. They went with Richie Wolf for the first pick of this MLB draft here. And so now what do they do with this selection? Connie Guzman is very enticing here as a catcher prospect with 80 potential. But do they need a catcher is the question. I mean, they have Will Smith at catcher right now. So, yeah, they might not really need a catcher. Might not really need to draft a catcher. So we'll see what they do if they keep looking. As they go to Rini Rosado here, 21-year-old first baseman, and I like where he was out there. So Rini Rosado, the first pick in this contemporary balance round. So Las Vegas here is going to go ahead and make their second selection of this LB draft. Remember, they got Benito Valenzuela with their first overall selection here. So what do? I mean, Enrique Gonzalez is there, and he's pretty decent. 2024 ETA. It looks like a left fielder here for them. And so, I mean, do they need that outfield help? It looks like they do. They really don't have any guys behind Jorge Soler right there in left field. All deep potential guys. So that looks like it's going to be, a very solid option for them here. But in this case, they kind of look around at other outfield spots, and they just don't have really anybody here in right field either. I mean, Fremont Reyes, I think is starting for them. Maybe. I am not totally sure. But Starling Marte is, of course, starting for them right now, and, he's doing pretty well. But, yeah, they just don't have a lot of guys here that can help them out. And Jorge Soler is a good player, but Enrique Gonzalez will help them out in the outfield there with outfield depth, and so that's the selection here for them. And now the Dragons are actually going to be this next selection here. And so I think they got a pitcher in the first round, if I'm not mistaken. So we will have to see what they do here. Eddie Corona is still there. I mean, he's really good. Looks like he could be really good. But we'll see what the second selection here for the Dragons is. And, well, let's see. Kind of scrolling around. We go kind of the outfield. And, yeah, they got that first baseman in there with their first selection. There's not a lot of guys with 80 potential that have some decent ratings. So actually, they go to these relievers here. They got 3 blue chip relief pitchers, and man, Julio Gonzalez looks ridiculous. So it might be a little bit early for relief pitchers. I mean, we'll have to see. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's too early, but I do think that was, an interesting selection. I mean, bullpen help is always helpful. I mean, I think the bullpen in this game is one of the hardest things to maintain. As they got a starting pitcher here for the Indianapolis Arrows, and this is their second selection on this draft. And so we will see what they do with it here. And so they really look at a center fielder, Alejandro Espinoza, I believe that's how you say his name. So that's a outfielder there for Indianapolis. And now Seattle is going to get a pick here. The Raptors are going to get their second selection of this draft. Rico Moita there. I mean, a 75 potential guy with a 75 rating. You're not going to ever want to trust that. Robert Ross, maybe an interesting option at shortstop here. And, I mean, there's a couple of guys. Well, not really, but, he's an interesting option there at shortstop, maybe. Tobias Wayne, also an interesting option there at third base, potentially. Vito Brujan is a second baseman, but I like Tobias Wayne. I kind of keep going back to him. 80 potential guy. And, you know, kind of would like that help at third base. And Robert Ross is here as well at short, considering him as well. I mean, Xander Bogaerts, of course, the starter at shortstop right now for this ball club, but they have some prospects. Julius Shella, who's actually playing pretty well right now this season, is there at their starting third baseman, but man, Robert Ross is actually going to be their selection here in that selection. So a shortstop is the second round pick for the Toronto Raptors. So now we go to the Rattlers here, and Colorado got a pitcher with their first pick in this draft, and so we'll see what they go with here. Ken Garcia looks like he could be interesting. I mean, 2023 ETA, 70 overall, 80 potential guy. Maybe a little bit too good to be true, though it might look like David Owen is another guy that they have penned as an 80 potential player, but, you know, a little bit on the lower end. William Chang, a third baseman, is also a guy that could be interesting, but we'll see. Let's see what they do. They go to right field, and they have a guy, green scouting accuracy, a right fielder here in Vernon Carson. So I like that selection. He's really the only 80 potential guy with green scouting accuracy on their board. And I mean, again, there is Tobias Wayne. I think I like him. We'll see. Do the Sharks really need a third baseman as they get their second selection here? About to go into the second round of this draft. I believe this is the last pick of the contemporary round. And, I mean, yeah, Eduardo Escobar is our starting third baseman, but not a lot of guys behind him. There are not really any draft, guys. So the Tobias Wayne, or prospect, I should say, is going to be that selection. So now we're in the second round, and, I showed you the first round, and I showed you the competitive balance round A. So I don't know how much more picks we're going to go through. We're probably only going to go through a few more here, as it's the third selection for the Expos. And I think I did the first 2 rounds of this entire draft, if I don't remember correctly. Then I just simmed the rest of it. So we might go through a couple more selections here. And so, I mean, Joe Vogelsong is actually low rated for them. Wes Adams, a second baseman here. I mean, the scouting accuracy on him is a little low, so maybe that would be a bit of a risk here already in the second round. But they're actually going to go with this the second blue chip relief pitcher there, and I didn't even see his name, unfortunately. But that's who they go with there. That blue chip guy. So there's only one more blue chip guy left, but it's a relief pitcher. Blaine McDonald is an interesting selection. This is the third one for Las Vegas in this draft here. But, I mean, what kind of 80 guys do they have? They have some maybe at first base, and Blaine McDonald is going to be the selection here at first base for them in the second round. And now we get to the Arrows and their third pick of the draft. And, I mean, I think that if you don't have a guy that is 80 potential, that is at least decently scouted, then I think that going with the closer is definitely a good option here. At this point in the second round, I think I'm pretty comfortable choosing a relief pitcher, but I would still like to find somebody else besides that if I could avoid it. So we'll see what the Arrows. And so they really like this first baseman here, Angel Vega. And, they have Laddie as well, as their starting first baseman, but he can play third base. And, they have Josh Donaldson at first base, so that means that they got some position flexibility there, and Angel Vega is going to be that selection there at that second round pick. Some guys still in the green here for the Rhinos, but not really anybody that is crazy for them, and not anybody that is in 80 potential. But, maybe if you have a green scouting report on some of these 75 potential guys, you might be decently comfortable with taking some of them here. But they have Luis Campusano at the catcher position, so, definitely probably don't want to get a catcher with your selection here. But we'll see what. But even so, I mean, they like Cesar Guzman a lot here, or Eddie Corona, but man, Cesar Guzman, I think he's going to be that pick for them, and so that is going to be that second round selection for the Richmond Rhinos at catcher. So now Nashville, they're going to have their second pick here, and this will probably be the last pick that I will do, honestly, for you guys here in this second round, and so we'll see what they select, and we'll take a look at what these drafts shake out and how they shook out for these teams here after the selection by. And so they go to, first base. They're kind of looking around there, and they will get a first baseman. And that's going to be it. I'm going to skip the last few picks here. I did pick a couple more players in this recording, but we're getting to the 50-minute mark, and it's, it's getting there. So we're going to just look at the picks now, and I will see you guys at the draft and the final draft results. And okay, so we're going to start with the Jazz, and that is good news already for New Orleans. Robbie Roy with an A potential here, so we're going to go through and just keep in mind that a lot of these ratings are not going to be the exact same. I will be changing some of these ratings for these players, but the potentials will be the same. So Robbie Roy, it is Robbie Roy, okay. Robbie Roy, man, what a good pick here. There was a kind of a mid selection in the first round for the Jazz, and he has 94 potential and is already a 65 overall. So I'm probably not going to change his ratings very much at all here, as man, he's already only a couple years away probably from making it to the show. So that's a really good first round pick right there. The rest of the guys here, not great, but Enrique Mordones, Medeiros, not sure how you pronounce that exactly, but he is an 89 potential guy. Nobody else super crazy that sticks out to me in this draft for the Jazz, but definitely Robbie Roy, and that is a really good selection. Angelo Quinones is an 82. Alfonso Espinosa is a 79 potential guy. Ramon Rodriguez there. Maybe some potential with him. But OKC, they get an 8 potential guy here in Derek Lamar. And I don't think that did they pick him as a blue chipper? I think they did. And Derek Lamar is 68 overall already, and he's got some good pitching ratings here. Now, the rest of this draft for them, not great for OKC. But now we go to the Crusaders, and Anthony Quebec. This is a good first-round selection for Atlanta. An 88 potential guy, only, 50-something overall, so I'm going to raise his ratings a little bit for sure going into the season. They also have Mike Pulse or David Caruso, Patrick McArthur, but really, that guy was their steal. And wow, look at this. A 290 overall or 90 potential players here for Nashville. This team, they didn't even really need it. Alexi Gonzalez, wow, look at this. He gets to have a 91 potential, and Leo Munoz has 92. And, this team, they already got a great loaded roster, and they just got even more loaded with those two selections. Willie Rosado here, 94 potential. And this is what I'm talking about. Like, Willie Rosado has 94 potential, but he's in a 41 overall. He's never going to play in the big leagues. So I will definitely increase Willie Rosado's stats going into the year. And I definitely make him a lot better because, man, he's got 94 potential. Great selection there. James Koo. All right, I'll take that. 88 potential here for him. And so it's not 90. Remember, they passed up on a chance to get a 90 potential guy guaranteed. But they also got Carlos Morales here and with their fourth selection. And that's a really good relief pitcher prospect there. And then here's Bo Suarez. So we talked about Bo Suarez a lot in that first round. And I thought he was going to get picked up a lot sooner than he was. But man, he's a 75 overall hitter already. And look at the power versus lefties. That is impressive. At 61, his contact ratings are 63 and 56. Bo Suarez is a guy that could play in the major leagues in a matter of a year or two. Seriously, that's how close he is to the big leagues. Now, the potential at 91, kind of wish the potential was a little bit higher, but seriously, Cesar Guzman is pretty good there, but man, Bo Suarez, that is a baller pick right there. And then here's Homer Santos, and so, okay, those are the two guys that we were really wanting to compare in this first round, and I actually think I like Homer Santos just a little bit more, although Homer Santos purely a contact hitter, only 24 and 29 power, but 94 potential. That is higher than Bo Suarez. But Bo Suarez actually does have a lot more power, so I'll give him that. And they call us Morales here at first base, also a 90 potential guy. That's a good first couple of rounds right there. Great draft. And the Monarchs here, they got an 87 in Derek Miller, and then Justin Floor, a closing pitcher, or Fior, I don't know, I think it's Fior, and an 89 potential. Brooke Bond as well, 83 potential. You know, an interesting and just a decent draft here. And just a decent draft for St. Louis. Rick Schultz at third base is not bad. Ken Garcia is definitely the pick of this draft for them at 89 potential. And then Kenny Schroeder, this guy, one of the highest rated potential guy that we have seen in this entire draft here at 97. And I mean, he's only a 59 overall, so definitely going to make him a lot better. He's going to be at least like a 65 going into the year. But man, I mean, no K-9 at all, which is ridiculous. At 20, that's awful. But man, what a good first picks here. Alejandro Espinosa has 81, and then Angel Vega in the second round. That's a good pick there at 86 potential. So now the Millers, they had a good draft here. Felix Valdez at 85, but man, Mark Schnell, that a good closing pitcher at 91, and then Patrick Dillon here, a late round selection for Minneapolis, has 88 potential and is a 63 overall. So that's a guy that I probably won't change his ratings very much at all, but a really good reliever in the late rounds right there for Minneapolis, and definitely a good draft for them overall. They also had a 80 potential guy in Pedro Velez-Mill as well. But look at this draft. Oh man, the Gamblers, they had a crazy first 3 rounds. Benito Venezuela has a 94 potential. He's got some great ratings. Enrique Gonzalez in left field has 92 potential. And Blaine McDonald has 92 potential as well at first base. And we're going to increase his McDonald stats. But what a good draft there by Las Vegas. Good draft here by the Rattlers. They get Aaron Ramirez at 93 potential. And then Vernon Carson and Pedro Palomero, both with 88 potential right there. And then the Bees, well, the Bees probably had the worst draft out of all the teams here. Johnny Rodriguez, a pretty bad first-round selection. Not going to get much better than he is right now. Jason Taguchi is the best selection there, but not great. The Sharks, okay, Nicky Washington, a decent pick there. Tobias Wayne at 85 potential, pretty good. And Sammy Espinosa at 87, so not an amazing, but not a terrible draft here for the San Diego Sharks. Nobody else in this draft is really impressive at all for them. But now we go to this team. They have the last pick in the first round, and actually, we'll take that. Esteban and Adino, not a bad pick here for the 30th pick in the MLB draft. In 86 potential, 62 overall. They only had one other potential guy there. And here's Richie Wolf. So Richie Wolf was the #1 overall draft pick. And, I mean, honestly, I'm kind of disappointed in this. I mean, his ratings are really good right now. Really good home run per 9 already. And a decent velocity and break. So, ratings-wise, he's good, but only a 91 potential. So, the potential is definitely on the low end of A for Richie Wolf. So, not a really, I mean, I wouldn't say that's amazing for a first-round draft pick. But Vincent O, I mean, he kind of helps out a little bit. 93 potential here in the third round for, I think this is their second round pick. This is their second round pick again. And yeah, he's one of those blue chip relievers that we saw. And yeah, he's got a crazy K-9 already. Look at this draft. Okay, this is a good one here for Winnipeg. They only get one 8 potential guy, but I mean, 88 potential, Dallas Vargas. 86 for Gabriel Merced. 87 for Steven Richardson. I mean, that's a great pick right here at 18 years old, and he's already a 70 overall. Man, oh man, that's a great pick right there as a starting pitcher. And then Ryan McDermott at 82, but Joe Vogelsong. I mean, that's a crazy pick. The 5th pick of this draft for the Wizards is a 60 overall 90 potential player. Really, really good selection right there. Good draft by Winnipeg. Decent draft here for this team. And Ed Parks, an 89 potential guy. Johan Ferreira, 85. But Vigil Garcia, a reliever, has 90 potential. And then the Barons, okay, Jason Doyle, first round selection, not amazing. Cosmo Vasquez, though, at center field, really good. Only a 52 overall. Definitely increasing that. But, man, that's a good selection right there in the third round for Boston. And a overall okay draft. I mean, Dominic Santana is pretty good. Levi Green is all right. Salvador Diaz is okay. But, man, that's a little disappointing for that team. And now we go to the Vandals. Justin McCoy, slightly disappointing. Enrique Garcia, though, that's a good selection. 87 potential. And then their last pick of the draft actually was a good one. David Owen, 18 years old. A good selection there. And look at this. First 3 picks for the Raptors. Pedro Artista, 89 potential and 64 overall. 77 and 75 contact. Really amazing contact ratings by him already. Really like that selection. And Robert Ross at shortstop. A 93 potential player here at short. What a selection there. In their second round, that was a contemporary pick. And then their second round pick was Maxwell Ojeda, a really good 93 potential closer. And how about this? Okay, nice draft here by the Chinooks. They get 2 90-plus potential guys, a good starting pitcher in John Mayberry, and an amazing reliever here in Emmanuel Cummings, 18 years old, and a 61 overall, 95 potential. Those are 2 great selections there. And then now Robbie Matthews here. Wow, that's a nice selection. A first-round pick, a 94 potential, 50 overall. Then Julio Gonzalez, a closer, 92 potential. He was a blue-chip guy. But look at this last-round pick. Oh, my goodness. Wes Adams. I mean, this is probably the best pick of the whole draft right here. He's a 72 overall guy already. 71, 73 contact, 65 vision, 67 discipline, and 70 clutch. That is really good. And he's an 89 overall, or an 89 potential. So this guy, basically an 8 potential player, and already is a 72 overall from Australia. The land down under, 20 years old. Wow, what a selection there. Great selection in the last round by the Dragons. That is a steal and a really good draft by them. And so now we go to the Scorpions, and Dave Franco here. Good 93 potential center fielder, but look at this. Luis Rios, the guy with the highest potential in the whole draft, and he was a second-round draft pick by the Scorpions. How about this? So Luis Rios, if there is one guy to make a generational player in this draft, it's going to be Luis Rios. I think I'm going to do that at third base. He's a 98 potential guy. I mean, the highest potential player in the draft, I think, deserves to be a superstar and deserves to be a guy that is an absolute beast. So Luis Rios will probably get the superstar treatment from me in ratings going into next season. Really good pick right there by the Scorpions. Crazy that he was not even in the first round. Not a great draft by the Reapers there. But Salvatore Nieve. Okay, how about this selection here? I kind of doubted him here in this first round, but he has 96 potential, and he's going to be a beast. We're definitely going to make him, maybe not generational, but really good. At least we're going to make him, around a 70 potential. But here is another ridiculous pick. Sean Robles, the first round selection from the Vipers, and he was a mid-round guy. So, out of all the starting pitchers in the draft, I actually did not like Sean Robles. I liked him the least out of all the pitchers in the draft. And he turns out to have the highest potential of everybody. That's crazy. Henry Fisher. Okay. Third round draft pick here of 94 potential. That's crazy. What a pick right there. So that's a good draft by the Vipers. But Sean Robles and Edwin Rios, those are 2 guys that are going to get the superstar treatment in this draft because they both have 98 potential. That's the highest in the draft. We did not have a guy with 99 potential in this draft, but a really good draft overall. I think we had a lot of good players in this draft, a lot of high Bs and A potential guys. So some players, some teams have better drafts than others. But man, that is it for this episode, guys. And remember, Robbie Roy, that's a great pick right there by the Jazz. But that's going to be it from me here in this episode here in the draft. Hope you guys had a great time watching this one. I know it's a little bit of a different video for you. Not any gameplay, but we will get back to gameplay next time, where we will have a game between the Bees and the Raptors, and Shohei Ohtani will be facing off against Kyle Gibson, who those two pitchers have been crazy good so far this season. So that'll be it for me, everybody. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet already to be notified when I come out with new videos. You've been listening to Lucas from Mars. Have a great day, everybody, again, and God bless.